Here are the top stories for today, February 24, 2020. Malacanang assures that calls to oust President Duterte will not succeed. The military announces gains in the fight against insurgency through the whole-of-nation approach. The Senate deliberates on the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN. And Bangsamoro officials undergo training with Malaysian experts on parliamentary governance. Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story, Malacanang on Sunday said it already expects that the call for President Rodrigo Duterte's ouster will not thrive. This as members of Oust Duterte movement, Kilusan Contra China, Bunyog, and Confederation Against Federalism reportedly flocked to the People Power Monument on Saturday to express their anger at the president. Calls for the president's resignation came just 3 days before the anniversary of the 1986 EDSA People Power Revolution on February 25 that ousted the late President Ferdinand Marcos. Malacanang said removing the president from the office is a mere wishful thinking, noting that the estimated crowd at the monument was only around 100. Last week, Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP founder Jose Maria Sison claimed that there was also an attempt from some officers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines to stage a coup d'etat against the president following the Philippines' termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement, or VFA, with the U.S. AFP Chief of Staff General Filimon Santos Jr. already dismissed such rumors. Meanwhile, PNP Chief General Archie Gamboa said any ouster plot against President Duterte would not prosper because it does not have the support of the police and military. Gamboa said there is always report of ousters every time the celebration of EDSA is near, but the call will not prosper because of lack of police and military backing. He said the president continues to enjoy the support of the public with his consistently high ratings in surveys. Gamboa assured that police would be on alert for the celebration of the EDSA People Power anniversary. The Justice Department on Friday has found probable cause to indict former Health Secretary and current Iloilo Representative Janet Garin and her correspondents with reckless imprudence resulting to homicide. The DOJ said the prosecutor's findings showed Garin and other government officials manifested inexcusable lack of precaution and carelessness in using the anti-dengue vaccine in 2016. The panel also recommended the indictment of the executives of Sanofi Pasteur, the manufacturer of Dengvaxia, for violating the Consumer Act of the Philippines. If convicted, Garin and the other respondents face up to 6 years in prison for each of the accusations. Garin claimed that the issue was only politicized, but vowed to face her charges without fear. Malacanang on Sunday said it will not interfere with the decision of the Department of Justice, saying the palace has never meddled with the decision of the courts. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo rejected claims that controversy over the Dengvaxia was being politicized. The Chinese embassy in the Philippines clarifies report that China had threatened to cancel the passports of Chinese nationals involved with Philippine offshore gaming operations if they did not return home. The embassy said it did not specifically say it canceled their passports, but confirmed that some of its citizens have already been barred from exiting China over telecommunication fraud. The Chinese embassy in the Philippines has repeatedly issued consular reminders and has been keeping close communications with the Philippine government in this regard. In a statement, the Chinese embassy in the Philippines said the Chinese government always requires citizens overseas to abide by local laws and regulations and not to work illegally in foreign countries. In order to crack down on cross-border telecommunication fraud crimes, the Ministry of Public Security of China has obtained a list of Chinese nationals suspected of committing long-term telecommunication fraud crimes abroad who are classified as the persons prohibited from exiting China according to the Exit Entry Administration Law. News in brief now, the Department of Foreign Affairs and some lawmakers are on alert on the threat of COVID-19. Laid Gabagani with more.
In South Korea, No Filipino has so far been reported infected by the coronavirus disease 2019. This as the East Asian nation raised its virus alert to the highest level on Sunday. DFA Undersecretary Brigadier Dulay said the Philippine Embassy in Korea is monitoring the situation and coordinating with Filipino community leaders in the country, including those in the hardest hit Daegu City. In Singapore, one Filipino national tested positive for COVID-19. Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Brigadier Dulay said this is the first confirmed case involving a Filipino in the city-state. Back home, Deputy Speaker Johnny Pimentel called on the Department of Tourism and the Department of Labor and Employment to put together a plan to help the displaced workers transition to other jobs due to COVID-19 outbreak. Pimentel said the social security system should also prepare to dole out up to 20,000 pesos in unemployment insurance to every worker involuntarily separated. Meanwhile, a Nakalusugan Representative Michael Defensor said the government should consider developing the capacity to quickly mass-produce face masks in the light of the worldwide shortage of the antiviral personal device. He said the country cannot rely on imported supplies during potential global health emergencies. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Kabagani.
Still to come, the military announces gains in the fight against insurgency through the whole-of-nation approach. The Senate deliberates on the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Our next speaker is the champion of the freedom of information and the champion of the Presidential Task Force on Media Security. Please welcome Secretary Martin Andanar.
In the 3 years of the government's campaign against illegal drugs, 41.55 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs has been seized by the authorities. 2,833 children have been rescued from illegal drug-related activities. 735 government workers arrested. 506 drug dens and laboratories were dismantled. 17,816 barangays cleared of drugs. And these are triumphant achievements for both the government and the civil society. All thanks to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and his strong political will, geared towards providing a comfortable and dignified life for every Filipino. Despite these achievements, criticisms continue to be lobbed at the government's fight against illegal drugs, especially from the opposition, who refuse to look at the results thus far. These are amplified through the proliferation of disinformation and fact-twisting by naysayers whose agenda is to simply discredit the government of President Duterte.
Thank you very much for these materials, which we will be sharing with the Netherlands government. I think this is very important. The Netherlands is is an advocate of fundamental human rights, and one of the things that they emphasize is the importance of press freedom. And I think it's very important for us to show that the press freedom is very much alive in the Philippines, and also the administration of justice is very much functioning, independent, and impartial. I think these are very important messages that we can convey to our partners here today.
I thought that the documentary was very informative. I do believe that drugs is a huge problem in the Philippines, and I understand it as a domestic policy of Duterte, and I believe in it, and I also appreciate that he's capitalizing also on the rehabilitation centers.
I think human rights in the Philippines is basically on a good level. You cannot say there's a dictatorship, there's democracy, there's a good and sound judiciary system with an independent Supreme Court.
The government's whole-of-nation approach in ending local communist armed conflict is said to be gaining ground with the neutralization of more than 10,000 members of the New People's Army or NPA and their supporters in 2019. William Theo with the story.
AFP spokesperson Marine Brigadier General Edgar Arevalo on Sunday said, since the issuance of Executive Order number 70, the number of communist terrorist group members who surrendered, apprehended, or died in combat operations increased exponentially. EO-70 was issued in December 2018 to end local communist armed conflict through the creation of a national task force that will take the lead in institutionalizing a national peace framework. Arevalo said in 2019 there were 10,520 regular NPA members and supporters belonging to Militia ng Bayan, Samahang Propaganda Lokal, and other underground mass organizations and supporters who have voluntarily surrendered to the government. 142 killed during operations and 276 arrested. Some 1,860 firearms were either seized or surrendered, improvised explosive devices or anti-personnel mines captured or surrendered, amounting to 452, and NPA hideouts overrun totaled to 449. Arevalo said this can be attributed to the trust and confidence of Filipinos who tip off to the military the presence of NPA members in their areas to the military. He said people in the countryside no longer provide safe haven to the NPA terrorists, forcing them to be constantly on the run. The military also reported significant success against the terrorist Abu Sayyaf Group or ASG following the neutralization of 178 terrorists last year. Some 84 ASG members surrendered, while 71 were killed during operations and 23 arrested. 144 high-powered and 22 low-powered guns were seized from the terrorists. Anti-personnel mines captured amounted to 69, while terrorist hideouts seized reached 18. The AFP also recorded success in the campaign against the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters as the military neutralized 61 with 14 killed, 45 surrendered, and 2 captured last year. Operations against Daesh-inspired Maute Group led to the neutralization of 107 terrorists with 39 killed, 34 surrendered, and 34 captured. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
ABS-CBN President Carlo Katigbak has apologized to President Rodrigo Duterte for the network's failure to air some 7 million pesos worth of his political ads during the 2016 elections. In a Senate hearing Monday, Katigbak says they felt that they were just abiding by the laws and regulations that surround the airing of political ads. Katigbak made this comment during an inquiry into issues regarding ABS-CBN's franchise, which Solgen Joseca Lida wants to revoke. Senator Bongo, in the hearing, questioned ABS-CBN Corporation's decision to air a negative campaign advertisement against President Duterte. President Duterte's former aide, said the advertisement sought to malign the president for the purpose of destroying his reputation. Katigbak insists that the network does not have its own political agenda. In business, the government seeks to introduce measures to support local vehicle manufacturers. This after Honda Cars Philippines Incorporated announced to close its operation in the Philippines next month. Trade Chief Ramon Lopez said they have to study the need to impose safeguard duty and other measures to provide a level of support to the local assemblers. Lopez admits that vehicle imports have been growing, causing injury to the local industry. Lopez meanwhile said the Department of Trade and Industry will meet HCPI to consider other alternative options so as to minimize the impact of any final decision they will make. HCPI, with its manufacturing facility in Santa Rosa, Laguna, produces passenger cars such as BRV and City. Honda entered the Philippines in November 1990 with 1.9 billion pesos in investments and started its production here after 2 years. In 2019, HCPI sold about 20,000 units, sharing 5.5% of the local market. The local government of Hermosa, Bataan has padlocked the province's only sanitary landfill facility for alleged violation of environmental laws. Mayor Antonio Joseph Inton personally served the closure order to Econest Waste Management Corporation, operator of the Hermosa Sanitary Landfill Facility. Inton said the municipal government also issued a notice of violation last January 28, while the DENR Environmental Management Bureau issued its own NOV on February 13. Econest, however, claimed it has not committed violations of the environmental law. Lawyer Biola Quelli Fiel, President and Chief Operating Officer of Econest, said that EMB inspected the facility in December 2019 and again on January 30, 2020 and issued no negative findings. She said she is still hopeful that everything will be settled. Farmers in Surigao del Sur receive cash aid. Meanwhile, authorities in Region 9 seize over 200 kilos of meat shipped without the necessary papers. More on this and other news from the provinces from Janice Cave.
The Department of Agriculture in Caragas said a total of 595 palay farmers in Surigao del Sur received a total of 6.6 million pesos cash assistance. Over 300 received 15,000 pesos through the Expanded Survival and Recovery Assistance or SureAid program. Another batch received 5,000 pesos each through Rice Farmers Financial Assistance. DA Region 13 released earlier last week a total amount of 1 million pesos to 71 palay farmers in the town of Quicharao in Agusan del Norte. In Nueva Ecija, Bongabon Mayor Alan Gamilla has advised local farmers against falling into the supposed ploy of some traders to manipulate onion prices. Gamilla met farmers here Friday to allay their concern on the reported over-importation of onion that could cause the drop of its prices. Local officials earlier appealed for a stop in importation during harvest season. Based on local monitoring, the price in the market of red Creole has dropped to 40 pesos a kilo and yellow Granex to 21 pesos a kilo from as high as 200 pesos and 70 pesos respectively before the end of 2019. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Animal Industry in Region 9 has confiscated some 221 kilograms of meat and meat products shipped without the necessary veterinary certificate into the region from February 4 to 22. The pork products were seized at the Zamboanga International Airport in the provinces of Zamboanga del Sur and Zamboanga del Norte and the Pitan and Dipolog cities. BAI has strengthened the boundary checkpoints on the national highways of Zamboanga del Sur and Zamboanga del Norte to prevent the entry of ASF into the region. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, Bangsamoro officials undergo training with Malaysian experts on parliamentary governance, and a cafe in Marikina entices patrons to adopt and care for stray cats. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
problem of illegal drugs is not one that only affects our country. Its detrimental effects, both physical and social, extend beyond borders. Dealing with this problem is a shared responsibility among nations, as it continues to be a threat in many societies, in many countries. We have already seen the positive changes brought about by President Duterte's hardline stance against illegal drugs and criminality.
It's very impactful. I hope that people will understand here that yeah, you really have to fight drugs, and you have to attack drugs on different areas. You have to do repression, and that's exactly what they're doing.
It was very convincing. I was really shocked to see this, and I think this film has to be shown to all the people who are opponents of the Duterte government and who are calling themselves civil rights, human rights people. Let those people who are always shouting about the civil rights go to the Philippines, go to see this mess that's killing thousands of families and people, police officers, youth. I think the message of this film is to be an ambassador to all people who are involved in human rights.
Watching it also is a way of showing how much we love our country and how we want our country to rid itself of this drug menace.
Officials of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao ended Monday a 3-day training on parliamentary rules and procedures in support of moral governance. Members of the parliament listened to experts provided by the Asia Foundation through the Australian Agency for International Development. Also attending were members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, or BTA. BARMM Interim Chief Minister Ahod Murad Ibrahim said the sessions included discussions on the function and composition of the parliament, house rules and legislations, among others. Ibrahim meanwhile lauded the Malaysian government for sending its experts in legislation and parliamentary procedures. The World Health Organization, or WHO, says Lebanon and Israel are two new countries that reported cases of coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. In a situation report on February 22, the WHO said Lebanon reported 1 case and Israel reported 1 case as well. It said the role of environmental contamination in the transmission of COVID-19 is not yet clear. Earlier, the WHO published a protocol designed to determine viable virus presence and persistence on fomites, or disease-carrying objects, in locations where a COVID-19 patient is receiving care or isolated. This is to understand how fomites may play a role in the transmission of the virus. The WHO advised that practice of frequent hand washing, avoiding unprotected contact with animals, practice of proper cough etiquette, and avoiding close contact with people suffering from acute respiratory infections remain the best ways to reduce the risk of transmission of the virus. In our foreign news, Chinese scientists will be able to prepare the new vaccine against the COVID-19 coronavirus for clinical trials at the end of April. China's Deputy Minister of Science and Technology, Su Nenping, on Friday said several research teams were trying different techniques to develop a potential vaccine. Su assured that China's vaccine development and research is basically in step with other countries. Cases of COVID-19, which originated in Wuhan City in China, were confirmed in 25 other countries and territories, including in Russia. The death toll in China from COVID-19 reached more than 2,300, while the total number of confirmed cases exceeded 76,000. A cafe in Marikina has made as its main attraction an assortment of stray cats living in the area. The shop aims to entertain pet lovers and teach them to care for rescued cats and other pets. Joyce Kudis with the story.
More than serving beverages and light snacks, cafes have become a part of people's daily lives. The atmosphere of these places offers a temporary refuge from the stressful daily grind. And while many cafes are run solely for profit, one shop in Marikina City exists for a meaningful cause. Cats and Crumbs, the city's first cat cafe, is exceptional as its furry fellows are puspins, or Pinoy cats from the Philippine Animal Welfare Society. While eating their delicacies from a variety of pasta and panini, one can see the cats through a glass window. And aside from allowing patrons to play with puspins, the cafe supports the Adopt Don't Shop advocacy as part of efforts to protect and care for stray cats. One of the advocacies of the cafe is to change the perception of the public towards puspins, which are as lovable as cats would breed. For 500 pesos, interested individuals may adopt a cute cat that is fully vaccinated and neutered. Aside from cats, the shop promotes local products such as the Sagada tea and Kalinga coffee, which are directly harvested from the Cordillera Highlands. A cat-inspired sticker from a local artist can also be purchased there. Every quarter, the cafe also holds a basic Filipino Sign Language class because Marikina and neighboring Rizal province used to host a community for the deaf. Cats and Crumbs is located on the second floor of the terraza phase of the CNB Mall in Marikina Heights. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Joyce Kudis.
Take another look at today's biggest stories. Malacanang assures that calls to oust President Duterte will not succeed. The military announces gains in the fight against insurgency through the whole-of-nation approach. The Senate deliberates on the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN. And Bangsamoro officials undergo training with Malaysian experts on parliamentary governance. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government that would serve Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am Rom Dulfo. Good day.